start. So yeah, good morning again, everyone. Not so morning here. It's 7 p.m. I'm actually in Poland, and I have some past with art and with development and of course the UX designs. I wanted to talk about the visual hierarchy because it's probably one of the most important stuff to have on your website if you want to lead your users through it. Okay, how this webinar how we're going to digest this. I will start with the principles that build the visual hierarchy. If someone is skeptical, they can write this on the chat, or if you have smaller questions, write them on the chat. And if I miss something, if you have some bigger topics to ask, then we'll go to this at the very end. This will be last half of the hour. So basically the visual hierarchy is the order that you want the users to go through your website. What they are going to look at first, second, and third, and go on. There's not much about this, but there are many principles used to build this this organized structure. So we'll start with contrast, as this is the biggest thing, because most of the principles we have here are using contrast in some ways. Yeah, like here I got the this contrast this is mainly just contrasting the colors, the grays. Actually, it's the value to be more precise. Okay, next on our list is the repetition. The repetition is actually the counter to the contrast. When you have a lot of gray and you add gray on top, it's not contrasting because there is too much of gray. You gotta have something opposite to add into contrast. The more contrast you have, the more the eye will be led to it, as I have here on my images. Yeah, when you are trying to build the styles for your website to have it consistency, you gotta implement the repetition to have everything feel together, like it belong to each other, so it wouldn't look weird and noisy. Another principle, the sizes. Yeah, this is quite obvious. You have the website title is probably the biggest, and section titles are a bit small, but why is that? Because like we have in the nature, the stuff that are closer to our eyes appears bigger. They're not bigger, but they appears like that. And we tend to create this kind of depth. We usually look and focus on stuff that are closer to our eyes. And this is the same with the websites. The biggest and more contrasting stuff appear closer, and we tend to focus on them more. Oh, yeah, the color. I won't be talking too much about the color because this is a very big principle on it is its own. It would probably take this single principle could probably take whole presentation on its own. But the thing with the colors, to work with colors, you have to make sure they have enough contrast between them, so they wouldn't look dirty or like I have here. These colors don't work well together. Don't try to mix them if you are going to make something. The probably the most easy solution or the way out, if you don't have too much knowledge about the color, is to use single color or go monochrome. You cannot do this wrong, actually. And yeah, white space. Probably everyone heard about the white space. It's so important that probably half of the YouTube is talking about this. You cannot have too many stuff on the website for the users to see at once, because, well, it will make the clutter. It will be too much to digest. It would be too hard to read between the lines. I mean, when you read out of text and you have the titles and well-spaced sections, it's a lot easier to separate those and to go through the content and search for stuff that are important to you. But if everything have the same amount of the white space and it's so little that you cannot see the difference, then yeah, you got a problem with your design. Shapes. With the shapes, there's a lot of psychology between shapes. Like when you have to create buttons for your websites, you have to think about what is the right shape for my website for the buttons, let's say. Should I be rounding them by 30 pixels, 60 pixels? Maybe not rounding them at all, if there were rectangles, of course. The more the shape is rounded, the more friendly it looks. So if you want to make like, I don't know, shop for kids or something with kids that should be friendly, then go for rounded shapes. And by the shapes, I don't mean just those I have here. It works also with the typography, with the how you have the cards and many more. Everything's add up to each other. But and the opposite, if you want to go with the more serious business website, then you wouldn't round the corners so much, because you want to be taken seriously. Yeah, the leads. This is actually not the principle. I have mixed some stuff together, but they work exactly the same. Some lines, surfaces, or even when you have the photos that look at some point, they all direct CRI and the points. And this is also very useful for building visual hierarchy, where you want to lead the eyes of the users. So in this case, yeah, this is very similar to arrow, because arrows are working because of this whole psychological stuff with the lines. Because we have like here we have like three lines that kind of create the arrow. Why it works? Because we have here the point that creates more contrast than this points tree on the other side. And they are leading the eye towards the other line, and maybe even further if we had something else below it. And the last, proximity. Yeah, proximity is something that helps a lot, especially in the grocery shops, when you looking for something and you can't find because if you have the apples mixed with the Snickers. This is unlogical and this is confusing. So by proximity, you want to keep stuff that are logically similar together to make it simple to find those stuff. Let me show you some examples of the websites. We'll talk about what principles they're using, what they could use better, and stuff like that. Give me a while. Okay, this is probably one of my favorites if it's going for the white space. This is the Notion webpage. Yeah, you have a big title that is encouraging you to look at it. It's well contrasting with everything else around. And we have the basic red call to action and very, very gray washed down informations, because they're not this important, so they shouldn't take so much of your focus. Yeah, this is another thing. The sponsors, or I don't know how to call them, collaborators. They have also a bit washed down the colors because they're not so important as the content, but they are highly visible either way. Let me check the chat. No one have any questions so far?
Feel free to type your questions in the chat and Oskar will answer them as he goes. So if there's anything that he's talking about and you don't want to forget the question, type it in the chat and he'll get to it.
Yeah, no need to feel shy or anything. I know I'm not perfect speaker on anything, just tell. Oh yeah, I lost my focus for a moment. We have here the very nicely seen, we can see very nicely the sections. They have the lots amount of white space between them and not so much white space in the sections inside the group. Just going for this is the proximity rule, which makes sense. You can easily say what belongs where. Yeah, chat. Yeah, proximity was just the one of the principles. Now I want to show you some examples of websites, how they use those principles. And then if you'd like to, I could show you some further examples. I know I could make them even by myself in the Figma if you're interested. Also, if you are feeling like you don't really take those principles too serious, or you're not sure if they even exist or work, you can ask about that as well, because why not? It's about the UX. You have to ask questions about everything if stuff works. Gotta be sure about that. All right. Yeah, I probably forgot to mention this. Another thing that is very taking much attention is the movement. If something is moving, it will catch your eye. If you have moving, I don't know, even there are now those fonts that you can program and animate. So this could also lead to some nice visual hierarchy uses. Yeah, I'm not sure about clutters like those, because this is the image, but it's so you can't really say this bit. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you can't really say if this is the image or not, if this is the part of design, because it's appealing like the other parts of the website, and there's no way to differentiate those. And yeah, I personally wouldn't use that much stuff here like they have. Yeah, maybe because I don't see any questions about the websites. Maybe let's go to Figma and work out some principles one by one. Okay, where should we start? Yeah, about repetition. I'll maybe show you some, I'll maybe build a component and show you what's going on with the repetition and how to build maybe how to build a style for a website. Yeah, this resolution is not exactly how I'd like it to be. Go over. Right, that's better. Yeah, I'm using the plugin Figma for generating some text, since this is not important to think about text right now. Okay, so we have quite basic situation here. Like, we've got the title and a subtitle, pretty standard for most of the hero sections. I wouldn't make it this far apart because subtitle is enforcing the title, and it's actually, they belong together, as I have even grouped them together. This is the proximity. When you have the repetition is very distinctive when you have a set of colors used. Like, I will use maybe this. And type something. Yeah, pretty straightforward. Yeah, this black is not exactly working here because the red I used, the red by its own is quite dark color, because all the colors have different lightness levels, despite even if they had the same value. Like we have here so we have here 56 lightness, and even if I just change the hue toward the blues, like blue and violet is probably the most darkest one, and red is also quite dark, but the lightest is somewhere like blue-green, something like that. Yeah, so you can just create enough contrast by just changing the hue. I was just going to use my my red color, and I would just change this gray to the white. Now we have enough contrast. There are actually plugins for checking the contrast. It's not only to assure that there is enough contrast for users to see those stuff, but it also checks that if it's good for normal text or the large text. This text is quite large. Normal text is like 60 pixels, something like that. Just pretty standard. Yeah, we have AA for the large text, so this is fine. This is readable, because, and this is important to check stuff like that, because some people have really old screens and stuff like that, and they might not see the color spectrum exactly the same as you, as I have quite good screen. But when I look at screen of my girlfriend, I can't really watch at this. It burns my eyes. And yeah, since this is yeah, we have here the nice amount of contrast between this white and this, but since this, oh yeah, let me check the chat. What makes the moving beard JS? Yeah, exactly. The contrast checker and all my plugins. You can just I have downloaded the Figma, so you can just press on the Figma logo here. You have the your menu, and you go to community and go just for plugins, or write something in the search bar like contrast. And here it is. I'm using this one. But yeah, about this plugin, maybe I'll talk a bit more. It's just a plugin. There's probably some functions, and you gotta think about all the stuff like how many words you have, because this is also important for the for the how it's called, if this is usable by others. Like we have here, it's not perfect score, but it's fine because we have the bold text and there's not much of this text. But if we had a full paragraph of little text, which I can even present you, yeah, I will just write whatever because let me go with the base, 60 pixels, maybe regular, and now I'll go with the red. Ah, shit, not this. Sorry. I meant to feel, yeah, like that. And now. Yeah, and it's you got the same results, but it's harder to look at this and at this. It's not only by the how big the font is, but also how much of this text, how much of characters you got there, and how much space between the lines you have there. So there is a lot of stuff that can improve or destroy your design. Yeah, we've been talking about the proximity of those. I would also group those because they belong together. And it looks like there's almost the same space between those because the bigger fonts have higher lines, of course. So I will reduce this, maybe even to zero margin between those. So they feel together, but you see you have the gap here, and it makes some distinct difference between those. to between those two components. Yeah, what? And as I used here this red, this will be primer color for this design. So if I were going to create a section, I wouldn't go with the same font like I got here. I got here the bold XXL. This is the biggest I have in this styles. I will go, I don't know, like one level lower. Section title. Oh yeah, this happens. You have to have selected the whole thing. And yeah, we can go with the gray or even with this red, but we gotta think about what is the most important thing. What we want to achieve with the website. Let's say this is the landing page for your product, and you want to convert, get some clients, get some sales, and stuff like that. This is why you have this button to buy this. This is why it's red, to gain attention. So the people that went to your website, they will know exactly where they can buy your stuff. I'm not even talking about how to sell or market stuff, but just about the navigation. So this section title is not really having anything of the same importance, or if it's not low enough, maybe there should be some more space. So the user that went to your site shouldn't see another object with this color on that would, like fight for attention with this button here, because this is the most important. Usually in most websites, you have also secondary button with, and it's pretty standard, but it's working pretty fine. So instead of the fill color, I would just use the stroke with the same color, maybe thicker. So those are together like that. Yeah, if anyone is curious, what I'm using here is the outer layout feature. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I encourage anyone to use it. I will be covering this in the next webinar. Right now, I would like to just focus on the organizing styles and building contrast on the website to create this hierarchy, this logic. Let me check the chat if there are some more questions. Yeah. What font I'm using? This font is Poppins. Yeah, it's pretty nice. It's quite simple, but it does what you have to do. All right, the section title. What could we have in the section title in the first section of the website? Maybe something like why buy from us? Or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, that's why you should be doing the research to know what to put there. And this is also kind of the visual hierarchy and the order in which you place your sections, because people will go from the top to down. Yeah, FICA. Use that. Why buy from us? The easiest way probably to do this will be through some cards. I will use the 256 for the width, just to reinforce the 8-pixel grids. Auto layout. I'm setting the width to be fixed, so it won't change if I put stuff inside. Right. Yeah, this doesn't need to be that big, nor tall. I could even just use the base. Yeah, it feels small. It feels small because we are working from far away. The other items are quite big. The 60 pixels is actually the standard we'll be using for text blocks. Yeah, I'm going usually with the 700. This is my gray color. Nothing fancy. Let me just generate some text. What I have it. Lorem ipsum. We want to have a single paragraph. Yeah, fine by me. Probably would like to have some icons here. Sorry, I was playing with my zone bars. I hate them. What is FICA? It's a plugin for generating text, not just lorem ipsum. I can generate some names, some prefixes, job titles. I use it for actually many things if I'm not feeling like coming up with some names for stuff. Like, you got here zip code, cities, a lot of stuff. And it's just creating those, generating those randomly. I highly recommend this. It's a lot better than just single lorem ipsum stuff. Since I don't have any icons here, I would just use rectangle shape. And yeah, color. let's say this would be some kind of icon. So yeah, now you have something like this situation where we have our section. And we have like repeating icons. Let's say they are different, so I will just make something like that, just to differentiate them a little bit. So yeah, we have this situation where our section is visible on one screen with the hero section, and we have this highly important buttons here, but this is actually bigger than the button. It has more volume, more space filled with our primary color, and it's repeating here. And this is fighting for attention, which shouldn't actually be something like that. And you have a few options. Either you could just increase white space between your hero section. So if people come to your website, they will just see the hero section, and eventually, if they scroll down, they will just see this. Or you could also, instead of filling those icons, because you have usually a set of icons that are filled and not just stroke with just strokes. Yeah, if they're not important, you don't need to use the filled versions. You can just go with the strokes. They're fine as well. They do their job, and they are not this important. And you can see now, by just looking from this far away, that this red button takes more focus than those here below. Yes, some questions. So all this is happening on the same layer. Faker did the wording. What feature does the shapes? Those shapes. I just use the rectangle shape with the R, and then I just set some border corner radius, it's called here, and for developers it's called border radius. And you can basically just set here how much you want to corners to be rounded. If you round it too much, then it's circle, as we have here. Oops. But if I change it to 8, it's a rounded rectangle. Yeah, and another thing, if you feel like the website title, like we got here, is not the most important thing on your website, maybe you think some section is more important. Like you have this section for with the call to action, with the buy buttons and more informations. You can do that as well, and you can make this title bigger. It depends on what you research and what works and stuff like that. So every decision in the design should have its reasons. They cannot be subjective or picked randomly. Everything have a reason, actually. Oh yeah, I wanted to talk about another thing. Like we have 3 options here. Let's say those are the features. They are quite similar. They take almost the same amount of focus. So they are almost even in the hierarchy. This is actually not the perfect situation, especially for users, because they should go and they should focus on something. So if you think that, let's say, the circle is the best pick for the client, then we could just wash down those two, just to reduce those contrast here. So this is popping much more to us than the other sides. So clients will focus more on this one. Yeah, it's pretty standard as well, but still many websites not using this properly. Oh yeah, how did I wash it down? I simply just selected the color, the fonts, and changed its color to be lighter. So as the background here is, yeah, it's almost white. Then if you pick a color towards the white, lighter, then it will feel more washed down and will be less popping up and less contrasting. It will feel like it's belong more to the background than to the foreground, as you speak, in the painting. Yeah, this is too much. You cannot overdo this because it won't be readable. Okay, Olivia, how much time do we have?
You have about 38 minutes.
All right. I don't know, guys, if you have any bigger questions, but you can come up with basically anything that is with Figma or with the visual hierarchy. And in like 8 minutes or more, we could talk about those. Just write them down for you and we'll talk about them. I hope we'll be able to make another section just quickly. Maybe any ideas? Oh yeah, or we could just enhance this one. Like there's a lot of text, but and this is bold text. It's not perfect. Let's make this regular. And we'll create some titles for every one of those. Yeah, titles are pretty important. I don't think I need to talk about that. Yeah, I'm using the auto layout. As you see, it's very easy to change stuff, add stuff. I don't need to moving stuff around to lay out them or align them. And I can just simply pick multiple. I have here, you can see on the left panel, I have this big frame. There is even merging between all of those. Is 60 pixels. This is not perfect because the text should have less margin between those than the shape. This is also the proximity of. This is also the rule of proximity. And texts, well, text have more is more similar to each other than the some shape or icons. So it looks way better when you have those together and closer. So when I select those two, I pressed Shift A to create auto layout group of them. And then I can just align those, change paddings, and stuff like that. If you have nested objects inside, you can just pick one that is inside with the control, and with Shift and Control pick another. Or maybe we'll just Shift. Yeah, we'll just Shift as well. If you already are inside this container, I have to make those auto layouted, and then I can select those two and change them at once. Yeah, I'm going pretty fast with that because this is not the topic here for today, but I will be covering this in depth for sure. Yeah, I guess it's slightly more appealing to watch on this. Yeah, the animations were probably done through. It could be programmed, or this could be just a GIF. As I have the rectangle, it's not. I select the shape, and you have here this panel on the right side. Here you got the corner radius. You can just play with that, and it will change the shape. It's pretty standard for all those design softwares. All right. Let's create maybe some another quite standard section for getting subscriptions and stuff like that. So now Yeah, another thing about the shapes, I not really recommend to use shapes as those. The frame tool is a lot better if you want to just create, if you want to create the container and nest stuff inside, go for the frame and don't use groups or that, because I've seen many people just create group and go with group. Let's give it some fields so we'll see it. Yeah, this is I'm trying to create the background for some placeholder. It'll just store some text inside, like write your email. Yeah, since this is just a placeholder, it doesn't need to be this contrasting. It's not this important. People will probably just, if they would like to focus on the subscriptions, then they would just focus more on this item. So it's not important for the placeholders to be contrasting colored. All right. The smaller buttons. You mean those, right? Yeah, I did not use the rectangles. I used the frame. Maybe I'll show it here. Just created a frame, and you can put some text inside. And then I use the auto layout feature. And plate here is the padding. The padding is the amount of space around the content inside. So I will just write like 8 pixels, and we have the button with the paddings of 8 pixels. It's pretty simple if you play a bit with this. Do I go too fast with this? Yeah, this is the placeholder, so it should be containing the actual thing, how it is supposed to look. But it still should have some label visible at all times. Having just the whole. For the larger shapes, you mean those here? Since I'm not storing inside anything, I just place the here on the top left. You have this rectangle. And I just clicked on this and created the rectangle. And that's pretty much it. And then you can pick stroke, delete the fill, and there it is. Yeah, it's the shapes are pretty simple. Shapes I use usually just for some icons or placeholders. I don't really use them this much. Most of stuff I'm doing with the with frames and nesting stuff inside. It's a lot easier to work with that. Yeah. Any more questions? Anyone? Maybe I'll ask you a question. Yeah, Figma is basically free if you're not working, if you don't have an organization or a team bigger than 2. Yeah, it's pretty much free. How much actually you have experience with the Figma or with Sketch and stuff like that? What did you come here to learn? Because I think like most of people when I feel like most of people would like to learn about the outer layout than about the boring design theory. Yeah, but if you feel skeptical about the principles, about what I'm talking about here now, I didn't invent those. Those are very old actually and tested multiple times. But where those principles are coming from, they're coming from human psychology and from the nature and from how we look at things, like this whole color stuff and color theory also is very much directed but about how we use the eyes and how they work. So this is not just, you know, some stuff coming from nowhere. Yeah, exactly. I've been actually doing this. I've been repeating this mistake maybe a few times of starting with coding. Yeah, I don't need to probably say this ended very poorly. Yeah, we didn't finish the website. Yeah, it's not a work for half an hour. If you don't have any questions, I think you can, I don't know, check me out on LinkedIn. Yes, there are the presets on LinkedIn. There's not much yet, but I may be posting some stuff, maybe some presentations more in depth than this. This presentation was more for me, so I wouldn't, mix myself too much. Yeah, my LinkedIn is on the meeting, on the meets up, but I can link it here if you want. So if you remember any questions on anything that you forgot to ask me today, you could just write to me on the LinkedIn. I don't mind that. Oh yeah, I'm also on the Slack. Phil have said, I think the theory is important, but for a non-designer, starting from scratch is intimidating. So I'm curious about templates and UL toolkits in Figma, like Bootstrap, material design, etc., to speed things up and get guidance. The thing is, with those, there's so much stuff because those are very big kits. If you're skilled and stuff, like if you know Figma for some time, then yeah, you can make design pretty fast with those, but there's a lot of stuff, and I think going with the principles and getting more skilled with the Figma is probably a better option for you. Yeah, Bootstrap is pretty fine as a framework as well. Okay, guys, did you see the link to the other webinar that will be coming in the next week? If not, I will send it here. So in the next webinar, I'll be talking more about how to work in team, how to work especially with developers, and this is probably the most important team, designer developer, as a product builders. Yeah, like how auto layout stuff, so developer could easily take this and just put it in code and not layouting stuff by themselves inside by the code. Yeah, day-to-day job for a person who can do this design stuff. Basically, yeah, it's user interface design. But it's just a part of bigger thing, which is the experience designer. And experience designer is also doing forms of research, testings, and more complex stuff to actually get to understand what is important for this website to have. Because yeah, you can make very nice looking designs, but it won't be useful if you have no direction. Right, guys. I think it was long enough. Anyone have any questions? If not, we'll be ending this here, and hopefully I will see you in the next webinar. Yeah, thanks you guys for coming. And ask questions on Slack or on my LinkedIn. I don't mind those at all. Okay, Olivia, I guess we can end this.
All right, thank you for coming, everyone.
Yeah, you can also just destroy me with your feedback or criticism. Yeah, it was not perfect. Yeah.